Previously on HiTop Films. Bullseye throwing skateboard smacking you right in the forehead. Need to get that net. Drowning. Hey. So what does Born Again bring to the table in terms of new narrative, in terms of new characters? Well, shit. If you haven't watched part 1 and 1-2, go ahead. In the first 40-minute video, I talked way too much about my genuine obsession with the original Daredevil series and the messy backstory of how Born Again came to be. It's a fun one, but I pray to Father Lanta, Mother Maggie, this one will be even better. So grab yourself some popcorn, a bourbon, a cigar, and let's... The action, the violence. I know what you're expecting me to call out. I know. You're expecting me to have an exaggerated ramble on how they took a classic Daredevil wonder and covered it in CG that makes it turn into a cartoon. That removes the weight and intensity of a moment that should probably be the most intense moment across both series. But to be honest, I'm not mad, man. I'm just sad. Sad because clearly Benson and Moorhead had an idea. Sad because clearly they have and had passion and understand the ideas behind why Netflix Daredevil worked more than whoever the hell greenlit the original Born Again.
This is a custom designed Funko in her honor.
I love the idea of Bullseye killing random people with whole lives ahead of them that they will never get to see. Murdering them carelessly with different bar objects. It echoes one of my favorite Bullseye fights from the original, where the threat is less about will Matt survive a pair of scissors to the shoulder?
Aim that channel and hang on to your right.
And more about how many lives Bullseye will take in his battle with the devil. The ideas are there, the purpose I just spoke of is there, but the execution undermines the brilliance. The sequence needed way more time in the oven. I know they probably had already spent so much money reshooting the rest, recutting, reworking, but never in my life did I expect to see Daredevil and Bullseye have a grand showdown that's full of so much smoke, so much grain to blend together the unfinished digi-double straight out of Daredevil 03 that undermines the work of the stunt coordinator. That stunt coordinator being Philip J. Silvera, who they brought back specifically to try and add some of that original secret sauce. Philip was the stunt coordinator on season 1 and 2, and while his voice, his work is felt here, it's not nearly as polished and supported as it needed to be. Here is his stunt rehearsal, the previs for that Bullseye sequence, which very much feels like the original show in so many ways. And here is what Marvel decided to release. And this isn't just a case of VFX bad, it's a case of VFX too much, VFX too prevalent. The original Daredevil used tons of VFX, but did it in a way that had to feel invisible. It was used to enhance the work of the real stunt performers, the real designers, not to cover it up. This just looks like they ran out of time. This just looks like everyone ran out of time, like they didn't get the stunt they wanted to on the day, so then they went to the VFX team, but then the VFX team had 1 week and no hours of sleep to do it. I don't want to be a complete disingenuous dick, more so than I already am, but to be honest, you could do this comparison with most previs action sequences to the final product. Stunt men and women, they know their shit, and choreographers often know how to shoot action better than the cinematographers. But I mean, I don't think I'm crazy in saying that Philip's pre-visualization of these action sequences, even the Muse-Fisk parallel fight that everyone loves, feels far more like the original series and far more kinetic than what the final product turned out to be. I'm not sure why that is, honestly. Maybe it's the fact that Born Again is trying to avoid any kind of camera shake, any kind of intentional non-polish. I really could not tell you. And on a different note, I can't believe that this fight was a reshoot. Look, it says it right here. I mean, I can believe it's everyone's favorite fight in the show because it's by far the best. But also, I'm here asking myself, if this was a reshoot, what the fuck was the original Muse Layer fight then? Something along the lines of this, I'd wager. But holy hell, adding in a bit of CGI blood does not build intensity. Whose fault is this? Whose fault is that? You can't really answer that. All I can say is, come on, man.
Is that it? Is that your best?
Even when Netflix's Daredevil locked into long dialogue scenes, each and every episode had a moment of action, of force. Whether that's Matt running on rooftops trying to tail someone or a simple interrogation montage, all those moments had style, had sauce, and were used to earn the audience's investment when they needed to slow down and let moments breathe. When critics say that Born Again matches the violence and intensity of the original, they either must be getting paid or frankly don't remember the original. It's not about the blood spews or cut-ins to bones popping out. It was the fact that the narrative was built around seeing the real-world effects of violence. The violence was meant to make you feel uncomfortable at points. It was meant to make you question the inherent idealization of these comic book myths. Intensity must be earned, not added in post. The filmmaking, for most of it. I'm going to avoid my usual shtick of going off about the noticeable reshoots, such as sets being recreated with green screen for additional narrative points, or the B-roll stock footage of people cut in between scenes to try and give the city some form of humanity and character. I'm going to avoid going off about all that because all those choices are clearly the work of filmmakers and storytellers trying to make Born Again better. This is better explained visually, so if you've just been listening to my annoying ass voice while you're reading your Sunday sermon, look up my king. The production design, the lighting, the artistic choices, or lack thereof for most of Daredevil Born Again is a genuine insult to the original show.
When I was a boy.
I want you to compare any two locations, something as simple as the offices of Nelson and Murdock to the offices of Murdock and McDuffie. Nelson and Murdock, even when it's entirely empty and only has rundown white walls, has character to it, has texture, it has intent. It's designed and lit so you can get lovely frames like this. The show is visually telling you with ratty fold-out tables, 3 chairs, and boxes upon boxes of unpacked baggage that these 3 idealists are making this empty office space feel like a home. They have found a home within each other.
Yeah, you're hired. Just got hired.
When it starts filling up in season 2, while still kind of dirty, it now has various colors to it. Karen has clearly tried to add life to it, a vibrant green potted plant, hence why she is also wearing a floral shirt. She is the light to Matt's dark. You can also see an army of cheap box fans covered in dust trying to cool the space down, primary colored gift bags from clients visible in the background of the frame, before we even get the cut-ins of the bananas that were used as payment by a client, since most of the work the trio does is for the good of it.
The last piece of Mrs. Denzio's peach cobbler, which is the last piece of anything in this office.
The set design tells you so much without ever saying a word.
Your point.
The office of Murdock and McDuffie says nothing.
This, us, what we do, it feels useless.
It looks like the standardized idea of an office. Modern art that reflects nothing about the characters, color choices that say nothing, exposed brick that lacks any kind of grit. Matt will spend a lot of time sitting in his office chair, unmoving, while characters present information to him, and in the background we see presumably their secretaries, employees, people we never really meet, people Matt never really interacts with for more than a brief moment. They are not characters, they are not treated as people, they are frame fillers.
Creedy Glossop McKagan to guide him through a complicated yet sophisticated accounting of his new and uncharted business model.
How do I stop it?
Just like Matt's office is a nondescript idea of a location with no personality. Take Heather's office that looks like the IKEA catalog version of a wealthy therapist space that has nothing in it that would tell you anything about her taste, her interest, probably because the writers didn't bother to think of those. Compare that to Ben Urich's office. Stacks of unfinished stories, leads he never got to follow, truth he never got to speak. He knows his time is almost up. He knows the world doesn't have room for journalism, let alone authentic journalism, and that literally surrounds him every time he sits down to write. You can take pretty much any location in Born Again, whether it's a New York street or pier, whether it's a warehouse or gang hideout, and there's not a lick of style, a lick of the soul that once was. The entire concept of the original was making the world almost hyper-aged. Like these buildings, these structures have been here since before we were around, and they will exist long after we are gone.
We've been sort of going under the premise that everything that you get, whether it's supposed to be something that's new or not, has to go under a certain level of Hell's Kitchen aging. So everything sort of exists in this kind of dirty, gritty, used world.
And now these locations that we spend so much time in, they just don't feel lived in. They feel like they were rented out for a shoot. You can sum it up by looking at where Matt lives now. An empty, lifeless, vacant, Disney Plus provided idea of where a main character should live. And now look at the foundational apartment where we never should have left. The one with dripping neon that reflects emotions like rain against pavement, representing Matt's unspoken and unresolved sadness. Even at night, his home is blindingly bright and full of color and beauty, but he'll never be able to to see it. You might say that in Season 3 they toned down the David Mazzucchelli yellows of the color palette. You could say that Season 3 is far less comic book in its visual nature, and you'd be right. But even when they had their budget cut down and so much of that season takes place in a clean, sterile hotel, the creative team found a way to make the show visually exciting. Matt's world, his soul, may have been devoid of the color it once had, but the camera sure as hell found a way to move, sure as hell found a way to elicit an emotion. You know, the purpose of creating in a fucking visual medium.
I think I'm done.
The promos for Season 3 were shot with more intent, more artistic flair, and a stronger handle on how Daredevil should look than 6 out of these 9 episodes.
Let the devil out.
What the fuck is up with that? Are our standards really so low that we accept this because we have the characters we love back? It does not have to share the visual identity of the original, but it never allows itself to find its own. People are screaming with hype and excitement on the internet that Matt swings around for about 23 seconds. But I'm sorry, it looks like shit. It makes me feel like shit. Fuck man, Defenders was a mess, but at times it was a fucking beautiful mess that still gave us shots and visuals that felt like they were ripped straight out of a comic. Felt inspired, felt like they were executed with care, with a vision, with a flair, and not just thrown in to build up fleeting and empty hype. Thrown in to make you feel like Daredevil is in good hands, better hands, when in actuality, he's just in more expensive ones. Where is the humanity? Listen, I want to make this clear. I'm not hating on the actors. I do not blame them. I do not blame Dario Scardapane, nor do I blame Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. They had to write within, direct, and deal with characters created and introduced by the original Born Again writing team. I just want to get that out of the way before I start the roast. I may be a dick, but I'm not heartless.
Karen?
Hell no, man. What the fuck?
We are introduced to Cherry, this police lady who I can't remember the name of for the life of me, and Kirsten McDuffie at Josie's. They are introduced as if we are supposed to know them, and that's because apparently there is a long history that was most likely never established before they added this sequence in. It's an easier pill to swallow because we are meeting these new players in a classic Daredevil location alongside the classic trio.
Nostalgia or not, it's hard to believe Cherry's retiring.
So if Matt, Karen, and Foggy care that Cherry is retiring, we might be charmed by him.
To Cherry, may you be in heaven a full half hour, for the devil knows you're dead.
If Cherry is the one who witnesses Matt try and kill Bullseye, his character might feel important, might feel like a confidant who knows both sides of Matt, might be able to fill a Jim Gordon kind of role later down the line.
I like the Matt Murdock I've seen this year.
I don't blame the new team for having to work with these supporting characters. I blame whatever person failed to remember that Matt already had a sometimes friend, sometimes critic on the police force.
I need to know what happened here.
I'm not telling you shit.
Brett Mahoney, man, he was the best, right?
Drink to that.
It's a Brett.
Not just the best because Royce Johnson brought perfect comedic timing.
Tell me all about him when I come and arrest you. Plan on that for later today, by the way.
The right amount of annoyance and a constant overworked, stressed out demeanor as a cop with genuine good intentions in a Forsen city covered in corruption and filth.
About what time is this going down? I want to have some popcorn ready.
Not just the best because he oozed personality, but because underneath all that charm of watching him interact with the toxic, brooding likes of Matt Murdock and Frank Castle, Brett Mahoney had a soul. I'm talking a lot about soul. I've said soul 10 times already in the last too many fucking minutes, but what do I mean by that? To me, good supporting character writing is when you are introduced to someone who clearly has their own motives, their own struggles, their life going on outside their scenes with the protagonist. When we were making Jason, and that's up to you to decide if I pulled this off, hopefully it comes out soon.
Fuck you.
My goal was to make sure that every single supporting character who got dropped into our story felt like they could have their own movie, they could have their own life, their own existence going on, and you'd want to see it. That was very much inspired by Daredevil.
This is what it's come to, huh? The masked vigilante's the only one I can trust.
The first thing we learn about Brett in the original show is that he has a mom he takes care of who loves to smoke cigars.
Please stop giving my mom cigars, Foggy.
What? She'll outlive us all.
Matt and Foggy bribe him for information with cigars that his mother should not be smoking.
Last thing I need is to be seen chumming it up with the enemy, especially ones bringing cigars to my mom.
These are the good ones.
So all the other times you were buying cheap.
Quirky? Yes. Efficient writing? Fuck yeah. This little bit establishes humanity outside of pointed exposition. He's not just a cop the lead characters will go to for information. We meet Brett for the first time and immediately see the loving yet tumultuous prior repertoire he has with Nelson and Murdock.
Thanks, buddy. We're not everybody else, my man.
Did you just say my man?
Just like they try to do with Cherry, but Cherry's repertoire feels disingenuous. Instead of taking the route they should have, instead of allowing Cherry to exist in the story as a well-characterized symptom of the very real world Matt is inhibiting, instead of writing a character to exist on their own, they instead treat Cherry and the other C-Team characters like they are important first, hoping that an entitled placement of them in the plot will help us ignore the fact that there is no writing to establish these people.
He does not have the game for Kirsten McDuffie.
How dare you? Don't underestimate our flock.
I'm not underestimating her.
We don't know them, and we surely don't care about them.
It's not hypothetical, Cherry. Is it? Is it?
His first scene is not really used to establish him as a human, rather establish the viewpoint on vigilantes that will be plot points later on. More time establishing plot developments such as the trial of White Tiger than to being a character worth remembering than to being a human you want to know more about.
Daredevil, White Tiger, we get sued and they get cheered.
Cherry only exists to question Matt's decision-making, to say the most cliche sentiments available.
Just let the police do their jobs.
All the tired old cop cliches you can think of spewed at Matt and at us.
You think I wouldn't find out? You give me your word and then you pull this shit?
Your voice down, please.
He said, he said. Matt, you take on this case, it's gonna look like you're siding against the whole NYPD. That's me, that's pretty goddamn cynical, man. First of all, it's not a party. I'm not your man. If you want to blow up your life again, you go ahead. You're on your own. You look like a guy who's blowing up his life. Okay?
He only exists to fill the role of a character they decided not to bring back for whatever fucking reason.
I'm a simple man, you know? I got you, now I'm locking you out.
We are filled in on his prior relationship with Daredevil, the unwilling calls he used to make to Matt when the police could not do their job.
Yo, there was a time when you were on the force, almost like this. You called me.
You know, just like the relationship Daredevil had with Brett, which, you know, we spent 3 seasons developing and getting to see.
He isn't the real Daredevil. How do you know? Because he is.
Imagine, just fucking imagine if it was Brett who watched Matt throw Bullseye off that roof. Brett, who has known Foggy and Matt for decades.
First off, we've been enemies since we were 4, Brett, so let's not blame it on career choices.
Brett, who would understand why Matt would try to kill him, understand that Foggy was so pure, so full of light. Brett, who had a plethora of scenes with Daredevil and has grown to sort of respect him. Imagine if he was the one who witnessed Daredevil's breaking point only to discover that his annoying pal Matt and his annoying vigilante pal Daredevil were one and the same. The sequence goes from Cherry has to be there to witness this gutturally raw loss Matt is facing, be there solely to justify his character's existence in the show. Matt. 2, Brett is there to bear witness to a tragedy that would impact him just as much as it would and does Matt. A tragedy that would have elevated a beloved side character into the main plot naturally because his involvement would be warranted, understood, and relevant to the person we spent time with and know so well. By subbing out Cherry for Brett, you at least have someone who knew Foggy outside the realm of Matt Murdock, someone who could and would make his death have the weight it should. Imagine the narrative momentum that gives us. Imagine if that was the reason that Brett, not Cherry, retired. Foggy's death. Matt gives up the mask and Brett gives up the badge. If for some reason someone was just tuning in to Born Again who had never seen the original, you have an entire history to go back to that would make Born Again even richer, and you would have an actual character to discover instead of a mouthpiece for the writer's moral questions around vigilantism.
Just let the police do their jobs.
Foggy's death has the same problem as Cherry almost. It's used solely as a device to get Matt to retire, just to get Karen out of the show so the middle episodes make sense. It's tragic that his loss of life is used as a damn plot device, a bridge between the pre and post overhaul. Tragic because Foggy himself had a life outside of Matt. He had a brother, a mother, a family of warm, lovable, working class people that don't get any screen time, don't get any mention. It's just fucking sad, man, and I hate to be the dude who's like, hey, Cherry is no Brett. Like, that's so fucking basic, but he's not.
Yeah, that's me. That's pretty goddamn cynical, man.
Fuck you.
And, you know, speaking of characters that are written solely as exposition machines for the writer's half-cooked thoughts, Heather.
It's none of my business.
Sorry,
Why were you?
Apologize. Heather.
Poor Heather, man.
Karen?
Hell no, man. What the fuck?
But real quick, before my eyes bleed out onto Muse's canvas, you know what real-world evil we've normalized? Data brokers. These companies gather your personal info and they sell it for profit. They scan the web for your name, your address, your social media, even your social security number, just to sell it to advertisers. The problem? That data often ends up with scammers and fraudster fucks. Thankfully, today's sponsor, Incogni, exists to protect you from these clowns. You hate spam, you hate those 3 a.m. robocalls, but you know what's even worse? Identity theft. Not so fun fact, identity theft was up 72% in 2023. Your supposedly private info is easier than ever to access. You know those creepy people search sites anyone can use? If you're in the US, you're probably on them. That means your boss or a total stranger can pull up your info. Said stranger could harass you, stalk you, or kidnap you and drain your blood. Seriously though, this shit happens all too often, but luckily, like a hero in the night, Incogni is here. They reach out to data brokers on your behalf and demand your info be removed. They handle objections and even let you request custom removal from any brokers they missed in their automated sweep. And it's dead simple. Look, you sign up and you give them permission to work for you, and then you sit back and watch as they kick ass on your behalf. Think of it like a fresh start and know that you can rest easy because Incogni will keep your data off the market by doing repeated removals, taking down your personal information if it manages to pop up again. So what are you waiting for? Live without fear. Click the link below. That's incogni.com/HiTop and use my code HiTop to get 60% off an annual Incogni plan. Thanks, guys. I can't get over how little chemistry Matt and Heather are written to have, which is insane because Charlie Cox has chemistry with literally everyone.
Well, I'll admit it's not entirely unpleasant to see you again.
Their best moments are in the pilot, which I probably don't need to remind you, that was reshot. The moments where she has the most bite, the most personality, are in her first minutes of screen time or within the meet cute reshoot. This right here is the most human moment they share.
So you're from Queens, huh?
How did you know?
Accent's still there.
Like hell it is.
It's there. You've worked to shorten the A's and the O's, but you can still hear the effort.
That's... wow. So where are you from?
37th and 8th.
Hell's Kitchen. Tough guy, huh?
Not at all.
And then you get to episode 2 and that spark, it's gone. You get to episode 2 and of course her book is called Live Without Fear. Of course she's planning her next book, and of course that next book after Live Without Fear might just be about the psychological implications of wearing a mask.
I've been thinking a lot about projected personas.
Fake.
How we present a curated version of ourselves. Like through filters on social media.
Well, here I am getting them done.
Or masks.
Is that it? Is that your best?
Of course, because the pre-overhaul born-again writing has the humanity and depth of ChatGPT. Of course she can't have a different psychological study. Of course she can't have a life outside the 2 lead characters. Of course she's relegated to Matt's girlfriend who can yell at him for being duplicitous and dishonest. Of course she grows to distrust vigilantes.
It would be my honor. Mayor Fisk.
And of course she's Fisk's and Vanessa's relationship counselor so that she can have a narrative purpose to hide the fact that she's given no personality.
Tell me about it.
When she says,
I love you, Matt.
To Matt in episode 7, and he says it back, I was literally caught off guard, like when Matt got hit with the Madame Gao 1-2. When did this happen? When did they fall in love? What did they do for each other other than having boring scenes in Matt's boring apartment, debating boring, tired, old notions of vigilantism?
Underdeveloped boys hiding behind masks, trying to make it look like something more sophisticated.
Where's the palpable longing, the tension, the hope of Karen?
Because I have this incredible ability to bring disaster to the best things in my life, and tonight has been perfect. And if I stop now, then I get to keep this one perfect night. And also I have the chance of keeping it going tomorrow and the day after.
And the day after that. And the...
Where is the consistent, sexy, borderline abusive toxicity of Elektra?
You know me. Like no one else ever has. And I know you. We belong together.
It's so fucking milquetoast. It's so lifeless.
Is this some sort of self-harm?
I mean, the OG writers give themselves plenty of opportunity to give Heather some personality. When Muse has her tied up, all she does is squirm and say all the standard write themselves lines of dialogue.
Don't you care about all the people you killed? Huh? Do you feel nothing?
She's a therapist, for fuck's sake. She should have more tricks up her sleeve to communicate with a broken psycho.
Do you feel nothing?
She could easily earn the audience's respect by cleverly talking her way out of danger, or at least show us that she's any good at what she does for a living. At least convince us to like her, if only for how well she understands the pain of those she helps every day.
Anybody who needs a mask is a coward.
Hell no, man. What the fuck?
But instead, she's relegated to silently staring in disbelief that this could be happening, to screaming, to struggling, and to needing Matt to swoop in to save her. At least the new team tries to give her something in post with this horrendously obvious ADR.
What the fuck are you doing?
I'm asking myself the same thing, Heather. I really fucking am. I just feel bad that said new team was handed over a steaming pile of tropes and had to unclog the fucking toilet using any method they could.
Yeah, Alex, stop comparing these new characters to the old ones. It's a new show. It's a new fucking show.
I get it. Honestly, I'm gonna retire. But that's almost an impossible task when we know the old characters exist somewhere in New York. That's almost an impossible task when these new characters are solely used as fresh faces to serve the same purpose of far better developed characters from the original. Claire Temple, love her.
If you want to know his name, ask him yourself.
It hurts, doesn't it? Being in pain, being afraid.
Meets the persona first. She doesn't know Matt Murdock at all. It's not a grand discovery of a secret vigilante identity, it's the inverse.
Do you mind telling me how Blind Man in a Mask ends up beaten half to death in my dumpster?
The less you know about me, the better.
That was fresh, that was exciting. Claire literally was introduced full of personality, of life. She had so much going on outside Matt's world.
The less you know about me, the better.
And yeah, just like Heather, she did go on to lecture Matt about his devilish addiction, but it's a relationship that had more beauty and gravitas to it, that earned its place in the story.
Feel my heart. What is it telling you?
That you're scared.
Because I am. More than I've ever been in my life. And I am not alone. But you can do something about it. For all of us, Mike.
Matthew. My name is Matthew.
Her lectures came not just from a disapproving, removed moral high ground.
Underdeveloped boys.
She didn't speak to him from a high tower of hypothetical ideology or societal preaching. She spoke with a healer's concern for his heart and for her own.
You know, when we were on that roof, you told that Russian that you hurt people because you enjoy it.
And you said you didn't believe that.
I can't believe that. Because if I do, that means you're not the man that I believe you to be.
Eventually, she can no longer stand to watch Matt harm himself and risk his life.
You know, the only thing I remember from Sunday school is the martyrs, the saints, the saviors. They all end up the same way. Bloody and alone.
I never said I was any of those.
You didn't have to.
Born Again takes an entire fucking season to have Matt and Heather arrive at a shallower endpoint.
It's starting to worry me on a professional level.
You know what? Why don't we go find out? Come on.
What are you gonna do? Confront the mayor at his own party?
Maybe.
That's acting out, Matt.
And mental health is knowing when and where to do it.
What are we doing here?
Encouraging, Gallo! Encouraging!
BB Urich has so much potential. I mean, Ben Urich was such an incredible character who, like all incredible supporting characters, had his own personal struggles and journey outside the main plot. The scenes with him and his wife still make me sob.
Let's go to Paris. Like we always talk about. While we're still young.
Ooh, you want to run away together? Or just run away? How long we been together?
Don't remember a time when we weren't.
And I love the idea of seeing his legacy carry on with his niece, but she's criminally underutilized.
I'm a journalist, bro.
Is that it? Is that your best?
And thank God the new team tries to rescue her in episode 8 by making her not as naive as previously written, by making her aware of how far the corruption goes, making her have the same tenacity and willingness to ask the tough questions as her uncle once did.
Not everything I write is under my name.
Problem is, Karen Page was already kind of the surrogate daughter.
We never got around to having kids, too busy with this or that, but if we had, I think he would have wanted one like you.
The mentee of Ben, his legacy is carried on through her. And we saw her fall in love with exposing the truth. We saw her grow a passion for finding the story, for wanting to use her words to help people. But originally, as you know, they chose to write Karen out of the show, chose to never even mention her, so instead they created BB.
Your friend, the journalist BB.
The literal blood legacy of Ben, one that I pray to God has actual meaty scenes with Karen next year. My boy coasts by on the pure vibes, with Michael Gandolfini giving this dude Daniel so much personality, but the writing itself, surprise, 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 is criminally undercooked.
Hell yeah. Sir.
And it's not just Born Again's main supporting cast, it's the smallest of roles that suffer because the writing simply isn't there. Buck is Wesley without any of the sauce, without the depth, the weird companionship he had with Wilson. Wesley brought out a softness in Fisk, a tenderness. The bloody 10-year-old boy finally had a friend.
Well, he's my friend! He's my friend!
Thank you.
Buck is just a bodyguard.
Thank you, Buck.
There was no such empty archetypical labels in the original series. Every character that could be considered a throwaway was treated with reverence. Compare this Getty Image gangster to the Russian brothers in season 1. Compare this dude,
And you go tell Fisk, if he's got something to say to me, he can come tell me himself.
to Vladimir. Remember the elegance with which the writers treated him?
You lied, huh? You can't even stand there and let me die.
He could and would be in Born Again probably a villainous stereotypical Russian gangster that you forgot about as soon as the episode ended.
Mr. Mayor.
Instead, those geniuses in the old days decide to force that surface level archetype into a situation that would reveal layers and layers of depth. They forced Vladimir to be locked into a singular location with Matt, protected by Matt for an entire episode. An episode where not only does the plot progress faster, more intensely, and more gracefully than anything in Born Again. An episode where not only do they have time for incredible action, genuine threat, and immensely compelling hero and villain philosophical conversations.
You're a child playing at being a hero.
No, I'm not trying to be a hero. I'm just a guy that got fed up with men like you, and I decided to do something about it.
That's what makes you dangerous. It's not the mask. It's not the skills. It's your ideology. The lone man. Thinks he can make a difference. I respect your conviction, even if it runs counter with my own.
But also have time to add some kind of moral center and value to someone previously depicted as mostly cruel and valueless.
I think maybe I stay.
Vladimir becomes a person, one with complexity by the end of that episode, right before Matt, right before us, only to die at the hands of Fisk and the crooked cops on his payroll. Compare all that to this fucking dude right here.
What'd you say?
Similar role in the plot, similar scenes where he is upset at the way Fisk, or in this case Vanessa, is running the 5 families, but given absolutely nothing outside his need to move the plot forward.
Thank you, Buck.
Fucking hell, man, you could compare Vladimir to Muse.
Muse.
I'm going to speedrun this section because there really ain't much for me to say, and I want to go back to talking about other more egregious things that broke me, but I mean, come on, man.
My name is Muse.
What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing here? What the fuck are we doing?
Encouraging, Gallo! Encouraging!
Was he supposed to be the original end season threat, like the main season bad guy?
Is that it? Is that your best?
Are you serious? Apparently, and we never really see this, he has killed 60 people. 60!
We estimate at least 60 victims.
And Matt just did not hear about it. He needs Cherry to come in and tell him.
How many?
Upwards of 60, so they say.
Okay, cool. Muse kidnaps someone close to Matt. They get into a fight. He doesn't say much, doesn't really do much. He's someone who can kick ass. Okay, cool, fine, whatever. Next episode, it's revealed that he's the dude who had one scene in episode 2. It's revealed through his one monologue that he gives in a literal therapist office where he explains his motive while Fisk reads his file full of exposition out loud so that we know how crazy he is.
He certainly does have issues.
So that we know that, yeah, he's capable of going toe-to-toe with Matt.
How familiar are you with Taekwondo?
Did I ever tell you I used to compete in Taekwondo?
We get his entire character biography spoken to us. We see none of it, which might be okay if the biography itself had any punch to it, any sauce, but it does not.
The city is finally starting to see me for who I really am.
Hey, are you Muse?
The actor is trying, but it's incredibly hard to feel anything. It's not a cool twist, it's not a cool reveal, because why the fuck do we care about Muse to begin with? What does he have to do with anything narratively or thematically at play? He is also, like every other fucking character that ain't Matt or Fisk, a plot device used to force Matt back to being Daredevil.
Fuck it.
Remember the last time Fisk read a file on a soon-to-be Daredevil villain?
The real you.
Yeah, me too.
What do you think Dr. Mercer would say if she could see you now?
Can you hang on a second? I need a tissue for all the tears I'm crying over my shitty childhood.
Remember how they executed that sequence, how they wrote it, shot it, how you could see Dex's life, his trauma and psychosis through the black and white worldview of Wilson Fisk.
I'm sorry. That sounds hard.
I'm sorry. That sounds really hard.
You know, giving the audience pathos, you know, stylistically using the medium of film to create a compelling character that the audience can fucking feel things for.
I'm scared, Dr. Mercer.
In Born Again, this villain exposition drop is the laziest, most hacky way to build the nothing burger of a character. I'm glad he gets fucking capped right away, because I don't know if you can redeem an antagonist that is this paper thin. I don't know if he could ever feel like a threat. He's not scary. He's kind of just like a little whiny dude with motives that are as basic as they come. The murderous, blood-sucking act of killing 60 fucking people to create his art is not given any real weight in the narrative.
We estimate at least 60 victims.
He just feels like a mid-tier Arrow Season 4 villain of the week.
Don't fucking call me that!
Remember this freaky dude who sent his head flying through this fucking spike? I was more weirded out, more unnerved, and more threatened by him.
Regret any injurious consequences my actions may have caused.
And guess what? He also served a purpose. He showed us that Fisk is so damn terrifying. Fisk is such a monster that this man is willing to kill himself in the most brutal way.
I want a name! Fisk! Wilson Fisk!
To avoid the repercussions of simply speaking Fisk's name out loud.
I gave up his name. You don't do that, not to him. He'll find me. And then he'll find everyone I've ever cared about. So that no one ever does what I just did. You should have just killed me. You coward.
And the fucking punchline is, this dude was an actual villain of the damn week.
Muse.
I'm going to become the Muse. After episode 7, I was in disbelief. I couldn't believe what I had just watched, so I went back to the comics. I'd never read any Muse stories before and figured, why not? I went and read them only to be even more pissed, because in the comic, Muse has a personality, a creepy kind of camp to him, where he waxes and rambles about the nature of art and the meaningless lives and purpose of most everyday people. And they adapted direct moments visually from the comics, but stripped the character of his charm. Sure, he was never going to have fucking superpowers in the mostly grounded Daredevil series, but that doesn't mean he can't have a fucking personality.
Muse. He certainly does have issues.
But hey, at least the costume is cool, right? That's enough, right? He gives a creepy smile, that's threatening, right? He tries to kill the hero's girlfriend, that's brand spanking fucking new, right?
Hey,
Are you Muse?
I think the best, and to be honest, the only interesting new character they introduce is White Tiger. I liked his episode enough. I mean, they have moments like this.
Luquillo is a beach near where I'm from in Puerto Rico. To me, it's the most beautiful place on earth. White sand, palm trees, and the coqui. This little tree frog doesn't croak, it sings its name.
Moments of self-reflection, moments of humanity. Camar de los Reyes' performance stands out because it feels like the one that belongs in the original series, one that has layers of turmoil and truth behind it that we are only lucky enough to see pieces of. He's the only new character that I wanted to see more of. My problem with the episode surrounding that performance is probably obvious at this point. The courtroom sequences lack all the visual flair they once had in Daredevil. In Defenders, lacked any kind of visual indication of suspense. And yeah, I sound like a broken record at this point, but that's because the show's a broken record. We've seen these beats play out before, done better, I think, with more class. Hear me out. No! This trial is supposed to be a defining moment in the war on vigilantes, a defining start to the anti-vigilante task force full of Punisher wearing fucks.
You're a bunch of clowns, you know that?
But despite the writers telling us how grand, how important it is, it lacked all the necessary build-up for me. Remember the Punisher trial?
Any lowlife, any maggot piece of shit that I put down, I did it because I liked it. Hell, I loved it.
Remember how crazy that all felt, how much scale of which it was shot with, how much time they spent showing, not telling us how damn important the trial was. Not just to the plot, not just for Matt, but to Karen, to Foggy, to New York. We've seen a witness who is supposed to make the case, end the case, be blackmailed and threatened into lying to fit into the corrupt institution's agenda.
What do you have on her?
We've seen Matt all of a sudden do a last-second controversial pro-vigilante switch-up even when his legal partners will hate him for it.
You intervened that night because you're a hero.
Matt, don't do this.
We need heroes.
Are you the vigilante known as the White Tiger?
Objection! Objection! All you had to do was get Frank to tell his story. Instead, you veer off into vigilante land.
We've seen an intense race to get someone to testify. We've had a car chase that involved that exact conflict, except those sequences took their time. Hell, multiple episodes of time.
Fire a weapon!
The simmering tension had time to come to a boil.
So yeah, Alex, shut the fuck up. We've seen the beats of a vigilante on trial before, so what?
Okay, sorry.
Fuck you.
But you know what we don't really see that much of, though? White Tiger. This one security camera clip, this one moment of heroism, a few heartfelt testimonies about how heroic he is, and a few extra lines of additional dialogue and rework sequences in episode 1 and 2 to make us feel like White Tiger is a prominent and known vigilante.
Daredevil, White Tiger. Next round on me.
But the problem is, my problem is, he's not known to us. We have not witnessed more than his one act of heroism. We have not seen how selfless and how dedicated to helping his community he must be. We are only told very, very, very directly.
He saved our lives.
If White Tiger hadn't been there, I don't know what would have happened.
It's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do.
You intervened that night because you're a hero.
He's a hero.
Yes, these scenes work. I'm not saying they don't work. They really work, and at their best moments feel like Daredevil, but there's not nearly enough of them. By the time Frank was on trial in season 2, we understood both the monster and the man. We understood and were left to make our own moral judgment on his character. The show never explicitly said Frank Castle is a great man, Frank Castle is a hero. In fact, it went out of its way to give us many different viewpoints without shoving one perspective onto us. Hector, like most characters in Born Again, is sadly relegated to be a plot device. He is set up to be a victim of systemic corruption. We meet him after he's already begun being victimized, and his story ends by making him a tragic casualty of police brutality. His character exists to die, exists to weigh on Matt and push him to be Daredevil again, exists to bring Frank Castle into this plot, and that, while not necessarily a terrible writing choice in concept, is just not given enough time to have the impact it should. Once again, I gotta thank the fates for Camar de los Reyes, because his performance is straight out of the Netflix show, stuck in a plot and writing that can't match even half that.
Because the last time I checked,
Real heroes don't need to hide.
Hell no, man. What the fuck?
Perhaps it would be more powerful if the people, the jury, us, declared he was guilty. If for once Matt's last-minute move didn't work. If we were so guided by hate that we put someone as kind and self-sacrificing as Hector behind bars. That's something different, something that could be used to send Matt down a different spiral. I don't know, man. I just wanted more, wanted something new, wanted the storytelling to live up to its potential. You can't give me a character that might have some actual soul and truth to him, and then send me back to the likes of Cherry.
Matt, you take on this case, it's gonna look like you're siding against the whole NYPD.
You can't do this to me, man, and I can't stand for it.
So I am not here to threaten you. I'm here to kill you.
The writing, the character work, and the need to mesh together old and new creative choices like your aunt's half-raw shitty pot roast is the fatal flaw of Born Again. All the ideas, the gestures that genuine insight are undermined by the lack of focus, the lack of breathing room, the lack of a consistent tone. In episode 4, this man is getting sent to the slammer because he stole some caramel corn.
Stole some caramel corn from a bodega.
Yep, that's the guy.
Okay, that's not actually a half-bad idea, to showcase how rigged the system is against the poor, showcase corruption through the lens of a man who is always and will always be looked down on, judged too harshly by people who should not have the power they have been given. The problem ain't the idea, it's the execution. It's the flip and switch up between moments of genuine insight, even if it's heavy-handed.
I missed my SSI appointment and they cut my benefits.
And memes like this.
Could it have been a scroll?
Nope.
See, that's funny. Cause you can't see shit.
A scene like this.
Just once, I want a dessert. Something that don't taste like crap. Something that tastes real good. And for that, they're willing to spend 5 times more to lock me up than they're willing to spend to feed me. You come in here and tell me that that's a gift? That I should thank you?
Is followed directly with this.
Just wonderful.
There's no breathing room, no reflection. This man's impact on the show should compound with the injustice and brutality of Hector's story, but it never really feels that way to me. Instead, feels like throwaway morals and basic social principles about America's fucked legal system masquerading as disingenuous depth. We don't have time to sit with any of these ideas because Matt has to stumble into a Punisher reshoot so the audience can clip it on social media and fans can get excited again. At the end of the day, Matt still goes home to his luxury apartment, spins his Daredevil baton around instead of hanging out with his well-off girlfriend, and contemplates putting back on the superhero costume while this guy gets fucked.
What a waste of time.
Start of the next episode, he's getting a loan from Miss Marvel's dad, who wants to show him her Disney Plus Funko Pop.
Custom designed Funko in her honor.
I'm so passionate about shit like this because my old man constantly was terrified of missing his social security and food stamp deadlines.
This is city government. There are processes.
Yes, processes.
And it ticks me off, man, that Born Again feels this need to blend in culturally relevant commentary on class with smarmy jokes about Latvian Heritage Day and scrawls, food stamps, and Funko Pops.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
In episode 8, once the new creative team has full control and is left to deal with the wreckage of the prior character choices, Matt mentions how little Murdock and McDuffie has actually done to help the people he once dedicated his entire practice to protecting and representing.
We defend Hector Ayala and he's still murdered, probably by the same cops who were out there assaulting citizens, by the way. Leroy Bradford goes away for eating a box of caramel corn. And then this asshole, this privileged sociopath can get away with ripping off teachers. This, us, what we do, it feels useless.
I will talk about the beauty of episode 8 in a bit, but it sucks so bad that Dario got stuck with the hefty task of turning Matt's character around, of calling attention to the fact that Matt has been so out of touch the entire season, and retroactively trying to make that the point of the show. Retroactively acting like Kevin's creative bag fumble of gentrifying Matt Murdock and the world around him was always the plan, when to me, it's clear that it most certainly was not.
Just let the police do their jobs.
Anyways, for the 1000th time, it's hard not to compare the ideas of Born Again to the execution of the Netflix series because it's night and day, man. The Netflix series did not dumb down class concepts, did not distill them into monologues that don't have resolutions. Remember when Matt, straight up beat the shit out of a strung out heroin addict?
Please stop! I'm sick!
Remember how that set felt, how disgusting, how devoid of life his apartment was? Remember how uncomfortable that scene made you feel, not just because the visuals showed you the ugliness of addiction, but because Matt, the man in the mask, almost felt like a monster with no compassion, just pure unfiltered rage.
Who paid you? Was it Fisk? Was it Fisk? Was it Wilson Fisk?
No, please, stop, please.
Give me a reason to.
And the character of Daredevil in general has always had more empathy for the poor, for the average man and woman left to rot in Hell's Kitchen. He's only blinded by so much rage because this junkie was the one who murdered Mrs. Cardenas. His empathy can only stretch so far because at some point his need for vengeance, for some kind of retribution, outweighs all else. Mrs. Cardenas was forgotten and taken advantage of by the same system that wants to keep Leroy Bradford hungry and desperate. Except Mrs. Cardenas was a character that didn't just exist to service a writer's idea on class. She didn't just exist to monologue about being stuck, being poor.
We do not want money. We want to stay in our homes. No, yo no acepto donaciones.
She didn't just exist to garner sympathy for one episode and then become a martyr. She had a life, she had a world, and we were lucky enough to live in it. Do you remember her apartment set? Do you remember Karen and Foggy helping her fix it up?
We're gonna take care of you.
Gracias. Gracias, gracias.
Do you remember that lovely dinner scene, the warmth radiating from the candles, the wide smiles distracting, if only for a moment, from the harsh reality of the sobbing walls of her home that are bound to crack and crumble any second? Do you remember the time spent on that, the care given to her character? Do you remember the show was directly making a point about Matt's priorities because he was too busy fighting his one-man war to be there with Karen, Foggy, and Elena? Do you remember that it was the direct fucking point that in the never-ending battle for the soul of the kitchen, her home, the kindness of Karen and Foggy was the casualty?
El cielo está cayendo.
Do you remember the shock of that? It did not need a fucking monologue. It did not need to be said aloud for us to feel every ounce of her loss. I remember her. I remember those moments just as much as I remember the action. And that's the fucked up part. We have the memory. So much of Born Again is like taking an actual prestige superhero television show, one that cast an absurdly large Fisk-sized shadow, and trying to rewrite it in crayon.
Book that would make Ulysses look like it was written in crayon.
Muse.
The writing is just not there for 90% of Born Again. Of course, Charlie and Vincent can make any line sound believable, but simply put, the original series was full of beautiful dialogue that felt just as alive as the character speaking it. You didn't notice when an episode had no Daredevil, no action. You never even questioned it because the flow of the story and the execution of its characters was so gripping. A 6-minute dinner scene between Wilson and Vanessa, a 10-minute monologue from Frank, lengthy procedural FBI conversations, courtroom interrogations. The writing made you hang on every word. Wesley could bust out a melancholic goodbye eulogy before Fisk goes to town.
The past can never be completely erased. It lingers like the scent of burning wood.
And Matt would express vulnerability, looking for answers in his torment with such beauty.
Then why did he put the devil in me? Why do I feel it in my heart and my soul?
Someone like Jack Murdock would never speak as poetically, but yet within his naturalism, he can say something so tragic and haunting.
He's a good kid. He sure as hell didn't get that from me. It's better this way. Just once. I want Matty to hear people cheer for his old man. Just once.
I mean, the opening of the series, the true opening, is in a confessional, the camera seldomly cutting, subtly moving in towards an adult Matt Murdock as tears begin to fill in his eyes.
Let the devil out. I didn't understand it. What he was feeling deep inside, I didn't understand it. Not back then.
But you understand it now?
Remembrance for his father, guilt, perhaps even shame for what he's about to do.
I'm asking forgiveness for what I'm about to do.
Other than being an all-time hook, it's a statement. This is not your typical superhero show. This is not your typical superhero. This is a story about people. Broken people always on the verge of tears or rage, love or hate, perhaps stuck, stunted, forever in the middle between heaven and hell. In Born Again, these characters, they speak in exposition. The naturalism, the poetry is all but gone for most of the show. So many of these day players, the tiny roles, are given dialogue that lacks humanity on the page. The people that once felt like living, breathing parts of the city's soul now feel like actors giving stiff line reads of even stiffer dialogue. The moral gray, the sauce, the spice, the heart of the supporting characters is now gone, replaced with archetypical personas. Heather could be anyone, named anything, as long as she was Matt's therapist girlfriend, because what was important to those original writers was not humanity, but plot. Kirsten McDuffie could be any smart-ass, fast-talking lawyer, because she exists to bounce off Matt Murdock. Cherry could be any retired cop, because that's what he is, that's all he is, an idea. The actors are doing what they can to breathe life, but it's so entirely devoid of it on the page, and that's such a goddamn shame. But hey, at least Daredevil can now afford a digital double to swing around on rooftops for 5 seconds. That's what you wanted, right? That's what you want. That's what it's all about, right? That's what Daredevil is, right? It's a joke. It's all a fucking joke.
Get what you fucking deserve!
Where is Maggie? Oh wait, they definitely didn't want to make religion as much of a thing and retroactively added that back into Matt's character through voiceover and reshoots.
You pray still?
Of course there is no Maggie, because Maggie has depth, Maggie had pain, Maggie was a human being. Where are characters like Ray Nadeem? Characters who have families, ideals, and goals outside of Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk. Characters who don't need Matt in a scene with them for you to look up and pay attention. And after this long ass fucking section, you might be asking yourself, yeah, but like, who gives a shit? It's a new world, a new show with new people. Well, I hate to tell you this. I give a shit. I give a shit because the fundamental mistake of the original choice to make Born Again more of a reboot than a sequel is the clear showcase of a fundamental misunderstanding. Daredevil wasn't a masterpiece just because of Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock or Vincent D'Onofrio's Wilson Fisk. It wasn't the violence, it wasn't the style, it wasn't just the action. It was Mrs. Cardenas, it was Claire, it was Ben Urich, it was his wife Doris, it was Mitchell Ellison, it was Turk, it was Brett, it was Father Lantham, it was Melvin Potter. It was the people of Hell's Kitchen, it was the love and respect they were treated with. It was the fact they had histories, stories that we wanted to know more about. It was the fact they did not always do the right thing, did not always say the right thing. It was the palpable humanity and the series' dedication to showcasing all different kinds of it that made Daredevil what it was. Why do I even want Matt to become the devil again if I don't care about any of the people he's supposed to protect? All this negative talk, god damn, I'm sounding like Matt after getting washed down the damn drain. I'm spewing shit and smell like I'm covered in it, but I wanted to save this for last. I wanted to talk about the one episode that I believe comes close to recapturing the spirit of Daredevil. Episode 8. When Benson and Moorhead are behind the camera, when Dario Scartapane gets his hands on the script, it's night and day, man. From the opening moment, we get a long tracking shot that has a point. Dex viewing the flower, perhaps the flower of freedom, the appeal of some kind of peace that he longs for, tinged in blue, shaded by his singular mindset. The plot having twists and turns, Vanessa trying to kill Wilson, Wilson being a step ahead, Wilson being unfazed, still desperate for her, still in need of her. Can Wilson love without need, or does he need to own?
This is actually Fiorello LaGuardia's desk.
It's hilarious, man. Once they manage to wrap up the bullshit like Muse they were stuck with, they go right back to trying to actually make an attempt at feeling like a season 4. And the writing itself finally has some grit to it, some rhythm. This one security guard here is directed and written to have more personality than most of the supporting characters. I'm dead serious. The way he speaks to Dex is 82.2% more human than any one of Cherry's lines.
All these new terms. We used to just call it cop snitches and psychos. Which one are you? Poindexter.
Even the terribly awful, boring tech bro office begins to be shot with a little bit of sauce, some movement. Look at Matt, look at him. He's finally moving, finally being shot handheld, never still, always stressed, always ready to take action. Both Matt and Fisk start to get some goddamn agency, some goddamn drive, some spark, some life, some fucking bite.
What is going on?
Call it an attack of conscience.
I love that line, man. Not only because it's classic Matt, but because to me, it feels very meta. Maybe I'm reading too much into it as I tend to do, but Kirsten questioning his behavior when the audience is finally seeing the Matt Murdock we know and love, and Matt responding as if this is his true self, this is his true attitude.
We're not serving justice here, you know, we're babysitting chaos.
He finally has his fucking soul back, and I absolutely shill this moment.
I promise I won't ever leave you again.
Fisk speaking that line with such possession, with such vulnerability, and under that, a child asking forgiveness from his mother.
I am better than I was. I am.
And Vanessa with such a somber sadness, a terror, as if she can see the rest of her life having to tend to the needs of this immensely powerful, incredibly violent child she once chose to love.
I know.
I love that as soon as the new creative team is free, they go back to the tone, to the locations of the original. Matt in his reawakening is sent to Josie's, and Josie finally gets a moment, which is brilliant. These guys are trying to find the soul that I've been looking for. The intensity of the gala, drawing direct parallels to the end of season 3, not even trying to hide the fact that they know these characters have been sitting on their asses for an entire season. And I let out a huge fucking smile when Fisk started talking to Matt while they were dancing, calling him Devil. I felt the spark of life, some kind of magic. My cynical soul felt some hope. I mean, Dario Scartapane wrote my favorite Frank Castle scene and one of my favorite live-action comic book moments ever. I think about this moment often, the most brutal and violent sequence in a comic book adaptation, while simultaneously being one of the most tragic and somber.
Let's go home.
So I'm not surprised that this episode was written by him. The fact that he's one of the ones fully in charge going forward gives me strength not to primal scream my way to the fucking grave. But still, the finale does not compare in my mind to episode 8 because 8 felt like the one episode that possibly flexed what this new creative team plans to do in the future. The finale, more than anything else, was trying to prove through its text and subtext that everything in season 2 will hopefully, supposedly, possibly be in its right place. The Radiohead banger at the end of the series is hilariously perfect. It's a direct message from the writers, the new team behind Daredevil, a direct message that they are sending to you. Everything is now in its right place. Born Again Season 2 will be the spiritual Season 4 that you wanted. We are sorry Born Again Season 1 probably was not, but here we are. Matt is back as Daredevil, Fisk is back to violence and in power, Karen is back, Frank is back, Dex is back, and if you ask me, Foggy will most likely be back. The IKEA apartment set is destroyed, leaving us with shoes held up by a telephone line, a metaphor of the textureless, gritless, lifeless attitude most of the series had. But now, Matt and we end right back to where we should have started. In Josie's, a rundown dive bar that is now in tatters, the wreckage of the creative choices that the new team was forced to make. Daredevil stands, ready to take on the corruption and power, surrounded by the grit of the kitchen he's dedicated his life to, encouraged by his heart to keep going, ready to fight. I've told my friends who adore the original show to skip Born Again entirely, well, maybe watch episode 8. And just wait for season 2, man. I'm sort of hopeful for that season 2, but I can't help feeling like this all could have been avoided if Disney just believed in the devil to begin with. Eric Olson, the showrunner of season 3, had a pitch for season 4 ready to go. So why did we waste millions of dollars and so much talent to shoot a 9-episode series that ends by telling the audience that Daredevil is back?
He's back.
That spends 9 hours apologizing for the work of the original creative team and promising you that it will get better when the people in charge were the ones who broke it in the first place. There was nothing wrong about the original Daredevil series to begin with. Lower budget forced creativity, being mostly outside the canon allowed for a narrative that had its own independent driving force. Netflix's Daredevil was powerful because it was a show about tormented outsiders that felt handcrafted from from the outside. And no amount of money, reshoots, or overhauls can replicate that when the foundation of Born Again was so cynically twisted. Born Again cannot possibly represent this character we all love, a character I connect to almost too deeply, because it is a series about the man who is forever trying to live without fear, created entirely from it. But perhaps it ends with hope, and my only hope is that Season 2 can be free from that ever all too defining fear.
I know you're afraid. You can't give in to the fear. If you do, men like this win.